a blessed Sunday to us. As I was introducing the Mass earlier, I was talking about the transferring of of generally the priests within the Archdiocese of Cebu. And in connection with the Gospel reading, it always has a funny note that whoever is so attached to certain material things, no, wala gyud gihapon kay bisan gani sa pagpamalhinay, wa man jud kay dalon siguro, because there were stories before. I heard this when I was still a small kid, nga ang mga pari kuno magbalhinay hastang inodoro apilon pagdala mga kubyertos o mabisan unsa pa diha. Anyway, it's just a little thing, but sometimes pray for this, because kinahanglan nga og unsa imong dala, pero daghan gyud kayo nga madanga di mo mabilin, kinahanglan mo ibalhin. That's why it's a very interesting, appropriate, or an apt condition in such a way. But what I would like to share with you, allow me once more. Why do I say once more? Because every 3 years, such a gospel like this always comes back. And it's a good thing to be always reminded of the catechetical dimension of our faith, the things that have been taught to us every now and then and are reminded. Now, I would like to focus myself on what Jesus said to the person who asked him to arbitrate against with his brother. Niingon si Jesus to the crowd and to us, take care to guard all against all greed. Okay? So all greed, tanan nga kahakog. So what do we understand by tanan nga kahakog? So, isn't it only one thing? Is it not enough to just say greed? And that's the reason why our catechetical instructions would explore in order to understand the many different facets of this greed. And I would like, for one, to make a perspective from the so-called 7 capital sins. And I hope you already know this, no? In order to have a memory guide, okay, it is always given in the acronym PALEGAS. Okay, PALEGAS. No? There are 7 letters to that. So PALEGAS means, actually, or represent, P for pride, A for anger, L is for lust, E is for envy, G is for gluttony, A is for avarice, and the last letter S is for sloth. Okay, daghan-daghan na siyang memorization, pero that is what the catechesis is all about. But what makes these 7 capital sins practically manifestations of greed? And allow me to again enumerate and shed light on certain things. Why is pride greed? Pride is greed of the self or the ego. No? Kanang kahakog nga ang imo rang kaugalingon mo itan-aw, that's what pride is. That's greed. Second, why is anger an expression of greed? Because accordingly, psychologically speaking, psycho-emotionally speaking, you are greedy of the negative emotions within you. No? So if you are angry, if you are enraged, you are greedy. You want sometimes the world to know that you are firing up. Muna nga mga saba ka, musyagit ka, etc., etc. Sometimes you even bring this to the social media, no? And affect people in so many different ways. Magsilaob ka, magsiga ka. Okay, that's what anger is. Now, what is the third one? L, lust. Why is lust greed? It's greed for the sensual. No? So if you are only for the sensualities and everything, that's also greed. And then, what is the next word? Envy. Why is envy greed? Because envy or enviousness, kana bang masuya ka, masuko ka tungod kay naang imong silingan niya, ikaw wala. No? That's why it again goes down to a greedy attitude. Nga, kinahanglan pong naapog ko anak niya. Okay? So, sunod sa envy, unsa man? Letter G. Why is gluttony greed? Unsa may gluttony? Greed for food. Kaon. No? Usahay di na makalimot na nga naa sa day gigutom. Yung na, unsaon man ako padre gigutom na sila niya ako mapugoy pagkaon. Yung maingon ito isa. Sige na lang atuan na lang i-intention nato nga samtang nagkaunta para nis mga gigutom. Anyway. Okay. So, after gluttony, what is the next letter? It's A, avarice. What is avarice? Avarice is greed for wealth. No, it is sometimes connected with envy. But kanang hoarding without even thinking of others, that's also pride. And that's also greed. And finally, letter S, sloth. Unsa may sloth? It's the greed for rest. Kanang di na lang mo trabaho, magsingan lang pahuway, magsigin lang dula sa mga gadgets, di na mo trabaho, di na mo tuon, the case of students. No? Ang katapulan, ang katamaran, muna siya usa sa mga paagi nga makita nato. So with this particular summary of the 7 areas where we find greed, that is what Jesus is telling us now. Guard against all greed. And all these things, when we are able to address, it always goes down to the level of the first step to check all this, to have a check and balance of this is humility. Ang pagkamapaubsanon. Because pride, that's practically the enemy of pride, humility. And once humility is being appropriated, all the rest of the virtues would come. With faith, hope, and love, and all the things that Jesus actually continuously teaches us in the many different ways that we want ourselves to be touched by His words. But as we continue with this Eucharistic celebration, together with all the intentions we have, let us always be humbly sensitive as well, that despite the many needs that we have, we also have to include other people. Kung mag-ampo ta, ato po nang bantayan, kay basig mag-ampo ta alang ra sa atong kaugalingon. We have also to pray for other people. And as my usual thing, I always say that before we know it, kung mag-ampo ta sa daghan sa uban nga mga tao, naapag yung daghang tao nga nag-ampo po di ay alang kanato. Amen.